quiet town in northern Arizona lived a man named Daniel Hayes, 32 years old, hardworking, loyal, and always chasing stability. Every morning, he woke before dawn, brewed a cup of black coffee, and drove 30 miles to his job at a large hardware distribution center. He had been working there for nearly 8 years, reliable, dependable, and tired. Deep down, Daniel dreamed of something more. He had a small side business selling handmade barbecue sauces and spices, something he started in his tiny kitchen on weekends. Customers at the local farmers market loved his recipes, but Daniel never believed he could turn that hobby into a career. Not when everyone around him kept saying, "Be realistic, Danny. You've got bills, a mortgage, kids. Don't risk it all for a dream." And so he listened, not to his heart, but to others. His parents, his co-workers, his friends, they all meant well, but their fears slowly became his truth. For years, he lived that way, clocking in, clocking out, going through life like a man underwater, unable to breathe his own air. One Friday evening, Daniel sat on his porch watching the sunset melt into the desert sky. His wife, Emily, stepped outside with 2 glasses of iced tea. "Rough week?" she asked softly. Daniel nodded, staring at the horizon. "Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life," he said. "I keep thinking, what if I tried? What if I actually built the business?" Emily smiled faintly. "Then maybe you'd finally start living for yourself." Her words stuck in his mind all night. The next morning, Daniel took his boys on a short drive to the nearby countryside to visit his uncle, James Collins, a retired rancher who had once run a successful supply business before selling it. Uncle James was the kind of man whose advice always came wrapped in a story. After lunch, Daniel helped him repair a fence near the barn. Sweat dripped down his neck, but his heart felt lighter out there in the open air. "Uncle James," he said, "you built something out of nothing. I want to do the same, but I'm scared. How did you know when to leave your job and go all in?" The old man chuckled and set down his hammer. So that's what's eating you. You're trying to make the jump from job to business, huh? Sit down, son. Let me tell you what I've learned. 7 lessons that can save you from making the same mistakes most folks do. Daniel sat in the shade of the barn listening as his uncle began to speak in that slow, confident tone of a man who had lived and learned. Lesson 1, he said, is simple. Don't start big, start smart. Most people think success means starting with a grand plan, a fancy office, and big loans. That's how dreams die. Start small. Test your idea like a seed. Give it soil, give it water, and see if it grows. If you can't sell 10 bottles of sauce at the market, you're not ready for 1,000. Progress, not pride, will build your business. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Uncle James continued. Lesson 2. Know your numbers. If your side business isn't earning enough to cover your family's basic needs twice over, don't quit your job yet. That cushion will keep you afloat during the stormy months. Business income goes up and down, but bills don't stop. Build that safety margin before you leap. Daniel looked down at his calloused hands. "So, I should wait until I make double what we need?" he asked. "Exactly," said his uncle. "You don't want to build dreams on desperation. Build them on discipline." The wind blew gently through the grass as the old man leaned forward. Lesson 3. Save for the storms. Before you go all in, you need an emergency fund. At least 6 months of expenses tucked away, a year if you can manage. Life doesn't stop testing you just because you quit your job. That savings will buy you peace of mind while your business grows its roots. Daniel exhaled slowly. The idea of freedom had always excited him, but he had never thought about the structure behind it. He realized now why so many people failed, not because they lacked ideas, but because they lacked preparation. Uncle James poured 2 cups of lemonade and smiled. Lesson 4. Learn your craft and your market before betting everything. Making a great product is one thing, building a great business is another. You need to know how to market, how to price, how to reach your customers, and how to stand out. Read, study, and learn from others who've already done it. You can't win a game if you don't understand the rules. Daniel laughed softly. So I guess just having good sauce recipes isn't enough, huh? Nope, Uncle James grinned. You could have the best sauce in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you'll be your own best customer. As the afternoon sun faded, Uncle James leaned back in his chair. Lesson 5. Have grit. People see business owners smiling on social media and think it's all freedom and luxury. What they don't see are the nights you can't sleep, the months you don't make a dime, and the fear that comes when everything's on your shoulders. You got to have the backbone to face rejection, failure, and frustration without giving up. Your drive will be tested. That's why passion matters. It's what keeps you moving when profit doesn't. Daniel took a sip of lemonade, quietly reflecting. His uncle wasn't sugarcoating anything, and that made it real. Lesson 6. The old man continued. Test your business for stability before you quit. If your business has been earning consistently for 6 months or more, that's a good sign. But if it's only been doing well for a few weeks, that could be luck, not proof. Wait until you see consistent income, and only then consider leaving your job. Patience isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of fresh hay. Daniel watched a hawk glide overhead, feeling something awaken inside him, a mixture of fear and excitement. And the 7th lesson? He asked quietly. Uncle James smiled knowingly. The most important one. Understand the risks, but don't let them own you. Every business has uncertainty, competition, changing markets, tough seasons. Learn about them, prepare for them. But don't let fear paralyze you. The biggest risk is doing nothing and calling it safety. If you live your whole life waiting for perfect certainty, you will wait forever. Sometimes you've just got to bet on yourself, but only after you've done the work. Silence filled the space between them. Daniel stared at the dusty ground, then at his uncle. You make it sound simple, he said. It's not simple, Uncle James replied, but it's worth it. You got to stop living for what others think you should do. You got to live for what you were born to do. That night, Daniel drove home in deep thought. The kids were asleep in the back seat, the moonlight spilling across the dashboard. He looked over at Emily, who smiled and said, "So, what did he say?" Daniel smiled back. He said it's time to stop living for others, but also not to jump before I'm ready. She nodded softly. Sounds like good advice. Over the next few months, Daniel began implementing everything he'd learned. He tracked his sales, saved every extra dollar, studied marketing online, and even took a small business class at the community college. Instead of daydreaming, he was planning. He kept his job but spent his nights refining recipes, improving labels, and talking to customers at farmers' markets. Slowly, his sales grew. Local stores started carrying his sauces. Then, a small barbecue chain placed its first wholesale order. For the first time in years, Daniel felt alive. Every step was progress, every small win proof that he could build something real. By the end of that year, his side business was earning almost twice what his job paid. His savings account was strong, his confidence stronger. One chilly November evening, Daniel walked into the office of his boss, a kind but practical man named Greg. "Greg," he said, "I want to thank you for everything you've taught me. But it's time for me to move on. I'm going to run my own business full time." Greg smiled. "You've been talking about this for years. You finally ready?" Daniel nodded firmly. "I am." That night, he and Emily celebrated quietly on the porch, looking at the same horizon that used to fill him with uncertainty, now glowing with endless possibility. "So," she teased, "when do I get my own bottle with my name on it?" Daniel laughed. "Coming soon, the Emily's Original." Within a year, Hayes BBQ & Co. was selling across 3 states. Daniel wasn't rich yet, but he was fulfilled, not because he had escaped work, but because he had built his own path. He wasn't living for the expectations of others anymore. He was living for purpose. One afternoon, while visiting Uncle James again, Daniel handed him a bottle of his best-selling sauce. "Couldn't have done it without you," he said. The old man laughed, tapping the label. "No, son. You did it because you finally believed you could." Friends, Daniel's story is not just his, it's yours. Maybe you've been stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill you. Maybe you've been holding on to a dream but waiting for permission to start. Remember this: you don't need permission to chase your purpose. You only need preparation, courage, and consistency. Before you take that leap, learn from the 7 lessons Daniel did. Start small, know your numbers, save for the storms, learn your craft, have grit, test for stability, and finally, understand the risks. But don't let them stop you, because real success isn't about luck, it's about strategy. And freedom doesn't come from running away from work. It comes from building something worth working for. So if you're listening to this today feeling trapped, remember, you are not too late. You are not too old. You are not too far behind. The moment you stop living for others and start building for yourself, that's the moment your story begins. This is your life, your dream, your destiny. Make it count. And friends, if this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more motivational stories.